Today on Up Front, Scott Walker once shot to the top of presidential primary polls. Now he's back in the pack. Today, The Atlantic's political writer Molly Ball on Walker's strategy for a campaign reset. Plus, the Senate will soon take up the president's nuclear deal with Iran. Senator Ron Johnson on whether Republicans can still defeat it. And plans for a new arena head to the Milwaukee Common Council. Council President Michael Murphy on its chances for approval.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. It was shaping up to be the big issue on Capitol Hill this month, but is it all over but the shouting? President Obama's nuclear agreement with Iran now appears to have enough support on Capitol Hill to survive, despite congressional objections. The Obama administration says the agreement is the best way to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But Republicans and at least a few Democrats warn the agreement will just empower Iran. Wisconsin's Republican Senator Ron Johnson is an outspoken opponent of the Iran deal, and Senator Johnson joins me now on Up Front. Senator, it's good to have you back on the program.
Well, Mike, great to be here.
So have you and your fellow Republicans essentially given up hope that you're going to be able to stop this Iran deal?
Well, you use the right term, survive. This agreement will survive, but it's not going to be approved of. It's really important to understand what this is. This is just an executive agreement. You know, our Constitution really contemplated international agreements being treaties that would get two-thirds vote of approval by the Senate, which, by the way, I think would have, had President Obama termed it a treaty, he would have known that, first of all, the American public would have had to approve this through their elected representatives. I think it would have strengthened his hands. I think we would have got a better deal. But that's not how he treated this. So, you know, we came up with this convoluted process as a vote of disapproval, and now he's got 34 senators that will certainly sustain a promised veto, even if we get to that point. So, no, I think this, you know, this deal is going to go forward. And here's the problem with it: is it will pump tens of billions, eventually hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy and military of the largest state sponsor of terrorism on the planet. And I think it puts them on a path to become a nuclear power.
Secretary of State Kerry says, look, what we've done is, without the deal, Iran has several pathways to getting a nuclear bomb. With the deal, they don't have any of those pathways. What's your response to that?
First of all, we can't verify that. I mean, we're finding these secret deals with the IAEA that basically Iran will inspect themselves, you know, pull their own samples out of this. So we're not going to be able to verify it. We won't be able to hold them accountable. Iran has already proven itself to cheat on these types of deals. So, you know, I don't see what paths he's really talking about. This may delay them getting a weapon, but eventually they will become a nuclear power, and that's not a good thing for world peace.
What about the argument that there were 5 other world powers involved in this negotiation, and if the U.S. were to have backed away from this deal because of congressional objections, it would have left a very tough mark on the relations between the U.S. and other countries around the world?
First of all, the U.S. led the way on this. And when President Obama basically lost these negotiations before they started by acknowledging Iran's right to enrich uranium and then started lifting the sanctions, that pretty well signaled to the other world powers that this is going to happen, so you might as well get on board. And I think that was really the dynamic there. But I've done a lot of negotiating. You don't give away all of your leverage up front and expect to get a good deal. And this is a very bad deal.
Let's talk about immigration for a moment. A big topic in the presidential campaign. Do you anticipate it will be a fairly significant topic in your Senate re-election race?
It's a big problem. We have to first, you know, provide far greater security on the border. And, you know, as Chairman of Homeland Security and Government Affairs, this is right under my committee's jurisdiction. We've held 8 hearings, a number of different roundtables on this exact subject in terms of how utterly unsecure our border is. And, Mike, let me give you one little testimony from General McCaffrey, used to be our drug czar, said that we're only interdicting 5 to 10% of illegal drugs coming across our southern border. That shows you how completely unsecure our border is. So that's the first step. We've got to secure our border, not only for the illegal immigration problem, but from a standpoint of national security and public health and safety. And then, by the way, it's not good for anybody to have 11 million people living in the shadows. Once we provide that border security, we've got to, you know, come up with a process for bringing those people out of the shadows, you know, coming up with some system. You know, I've been talking about
a pathway.
First of all, I've been talking about a functioning guest worker program. You know, if you really want to secure the border, eliminate or drastically reduce the incentives for illegal immigration. Number one incentive is people coming here to work. And that's been true of every wave of immigrant, your ancestors, my ancestors, but we've got to make that a legal process. This is a nation of laws, and we've got to respect that.
What about the birthright citizenship issue? How do you feel about that?
Well, the 14th Amendment is very clear. And if you're going to change that, you'd have to go through that amendment process. That's absolutely clear. Plus, the 14th Amendment, 150 years ago, made an awful lot of sense. Now, I think it's a legitimate issue to be talking about some of the abuses of that. We've heard this. I don't have the information on it, but women from other countries coming in here to a birthing center just to have a child with U.S. citizenship and then going home. And so there's some legitimate issues, but there's no doubt about it. The 14th Amendment is there. I think the way to solve the problem is secure the border. And then I think most of those issues go away. So it gets right back to what I first said. We have to provide far greater security on our border.
I want to talk a little bit about your reelection bid. A poll that Marquette University Law School did showed the race tightening considerably, fairly tight race. But in a lot of the polling that has been done there, there's about a third of the electorate that doesn't seem to have a clearly formed opinion of you. I said the other day that it's a bit surprising because you're not a shrinking violet.
Well, I've been out there a lot.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is?
Well, because there have been other bigger issues here in the state of Wisconsin. We had the Act 10, we had Governor Walker, then we had the presidential election with Paul Ryan on the ticket. So from a political standpoint, as a United States Senator, there's been focus on the governor and then the presidential vice president race here. And so, again, now it'll heat up prior to 2016, and certainly I've been working the state hard. I've been traveling all over since day one. Obviously do an awful lot of media, both radio and TV, as well as we use technology. We've done 43 telephone town halls. We've dialed out to more than 2 million Wisconsin citizens. Almost 500,000 now have been participating in those hour-long question-and-answer systems. So I've been traveling around the state listening to people's concerns. You know what the number one concern is? I can summarize it in one word: security. In such uncertain times, people are hungering for leadership. They're looking for people that are actually going to be honest with them and start addressing these very serious challenges facing this nation.
We've already seen a lot of money coming into this race. Russ Feingold, your likely opponent in the fall of 2016 election, says Ron Johnson should sign this Badger pledge that he's created that would discourage, he says, special interest money from being spent in Wisconsin. They're tweaking you. They run a little clock on his website about how long it's been, and you still refuse to sign this. What's your stance on that?
Well, first of all, Senator Feingold has to really explain the hypocrisy of his own political action committees that he set up. I wish he would have been honest with citizens of Wisconsin. I think he decided to run for election right off the bat. As soon as he was in that concession speech, I was pretty certain he was going to run again. And then the first thing he did is he set up a political action committee in February of 2011. By the way, this is a type of organization that he, in 1995, actually passed a law to prevent from being involved in any political activity or any kind of campaign activity whatsoever. So he's been running this shadow campaign, and he bragged on your show that the whole purpose of that campaign, basically, if you read through the lines, is to develop a list of hundreds of thousands of donors for now his re-election bid. So he's got all this outside money. Was he involved in some of that outside money that came in and attacked me in 2013? So that horse has already left the barn. I think Senator Feingold first has to explain how he's broken his own promises of, that was right in his garage door. He wasn't going to accept outside money that exceeded 50%. And he's already breaking that pledge right now. So he's got an awful lot to explain before I'd ever consider the Badger pledge.
Yeah, they shouldn't hold their breath waiting for you to sign the pledge?
Senator Feingold has an awful lot to explain his hypocrisy and his phoniness.
Senator Ron Johnson, Republican Senator for the state of Wisconsin. It's good to have you back on the program.
Good to be back.
When we come back, is it gut check time for Governor Walker? Next, what the governor and his allies are doing to stop his slide in the polls. That's when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.